And I remember one of the things that my brother and Coach Neese would talk about is you don't want to be a quitter. But up until that point in my life, I always loved football so much, and I couldn't figure out why it was no fun to me anymore. And so one day I was at school. I was dreading football practice, and I called home and asked Dad if he could come get me. I was sick, and I wanted to go home. And I'd done this a couple times, and so Dad came. He's like, okay. He came and got me. And we, on the way home, he's like, son, are you really sick? And I'm like, no, Dad, I don't know what's going on. I hate football. I don't like it anymore. It's no fun to me. And for the first time, I don't want to play it anymore. And I said, but I don't want to be a quitter. I don't want people to think I'm a loser. I don't want to be considered a quitter. And he said, well, son, I'll love you either way. I'll love you whatever you decide. If you want to quit, you can quit. But whenever you start something, you should always finish it. And so that was a big lesson for me. So I had Dad turn the truck around, and he took me, the school was already over. He took me to the locker room. I got suited up, and I went out on the field, and I finished playing that year, my freshman year. But the next year, I decided not to play because I just, for some reason, and I don't know whether it was the work, and that's another thing. Comes back to the quote I was saying, success before work. I mean, you can't have any glory if you don't sacrifice. And you got to practice every day on that football field before you can suit up and run out on that field under the lights. And so the next year I didn't play. And I think one of the reasons that, and this is key, because my brother played football for Hoover, Sharon's husband. And that year, he wasn't the coach. And so the next year, I decided not to play football. But then my junior year, I heard that Hoover was going to come back and coach. And I missed playing football my sophomore year. So I decided to come back and play, and I enjoyed it. And I guess that was just a growing phase I was going through in my life. But it was a very hard time for me because I grew up having two big brothers. They had left home to pursue their things in life, and I was kind of left to make my own path. I thought I had to fill my big brother's shoes, but I didn't really have to fill his shoes. I just had to make my own path. And so one of the hobbies of mine or passions of mine that I really got back into was music. And Sharon actually is responsible for one of my first performances in front of a crowd. She was the, I guess you would call it, chairman of the FLO, the Friends for Life organization. And they were raising some money so that after the prom that year we could have a lock-in at the school. And everybody at the school, everybody went to the prom, would change their clothes out of their tuxedos and their prom dresses and come in and play games and stay the whole night. So keep kids off the road and keep everybody out of trouble. So she asked me if I would do something for the talent show. And I'd been in chorus. I'd been in chorus at the high school. I'd been in the choir at church. And so I said, sure, I'll do something. And what started out as one song ended up to be about 4 or 5 different songs in that talent show. And I was scared to death. And Sharon would be like, well, now we don't have a lot of people in the show this year, so feel free to do, another number if you want. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, I said, I'll do 2. And she's like, well, now you can do more if you want. And so I think I ended up doing 3 or 4, but I was worried that people would get tired of looking at me and think it was I was trying to be like, make it the Kevin show instead of the Flo talent show. But that was a time that I really discovered being in front of a crowd and performing and playing music, because before that it had been in church and singing in the choir and stuff, and in our youth group and singing at revivals and stuff. And so that's when I discovered, hey, man, if I could do this and make a living at it, that'd be pretty cool. So I'm getting a little long-winded here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm barely through most of my notes here. I apologize. So then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to make this my career, if I want to make this my career, how do I make that happen? So after I graduated high school, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to college. And I didn't want to go to college until I knew what kind of field I wanted to go into. What Sharon didn't mention earlier is that I wasn't she was my algebra teacher. I wasn't real good in algebra. But she helped me and I got through it. But so after high school, I was working odd jobs. I was housing tobacco, baling hay. I worked at Druthers in Irvin as a fry cook, making French fries and cooking burgers. And then I got a job. I moved in with my brother, and then I got a job up here in Lexington as a salesman, which is something that I just do not enjoy doing. I was going to people's houses for evergreen lawns, measuring their yard. I was supposed to knock on their door, but after getting ran out of people's yards 3 or 4 times, I kind of gave that up. I would just hang the estimate on their door and carry on my way. And I couldn't stand that job. And I had a conversation with my dad, telling him, I was making decent money, but I was talking to my dad about it. And he's like, son, you're young. You don't have any responsibilities. You can work anywhere. He's like, I'm not trying to get rid of you, but why don't you just take off? Go see what's out there. And so on a lunch break one day with my best friend that worked at Evergreen Lawns with me, we were at Pizza Hut, all-you-could-eat buffet. And I said, man, because I had heard that down in Florida, because of Walt Disney World and Universal Studios and the cruise line industry, that there was work for singers and entertainers. And I'd gotten some gigs in Irvin singing at weddings, and there was a restaurant in Irvin called Cedar Village that I played piano at a couple times, and they'd pay me a little bit. So I was like, if I could move down there, maybe I could get a job at Disney, and who knows? Opportunities might be down there. So my buddy Jimmy, we were at lunch at the all-you-could-eat Pizza Hut buffet, and I said, man, and we had just gotten paid too. We just got our paychecks. We had about $300. I had $300 and he had $300. I'm like, man, why don't we just pack up and take off and go to Florida? It's getting ready to be summertime. We could maybe get a job at Disney. It'd be fun. Who knows? And he's like, I don't know about that. I'm like, come on, man, we can do it. Because I didn't have a car at the time. I was riding with him to work. And I needed his car to do it if I was going to do it.